Hello and welcome back to the ZwiftCast. I'm journalist and broadcaster Rebecca Charlton, and coming up today we've got a brand new jam-packed episode for you. We'll be hearing from the one and only Eric Min, getting the lowdown on everything we've missed from Zwift Insider Eric Schlang, and catching up with friend of the pod and all-round legend Matt Stevens. But first, I'm delighted to say that alongside me today and always will be the very familiar and much loved voice of American cycling and beyond, Dave Towle. We'll get to Dave in just a minute, because after that introduction, you may have noticed that I am in fact not the voice of the brilliant Simon Schofield. He's the man that started it all and has generously handed us the baton after 9 wonderful years. And Dave, we can't go any further without talking about the most modest man in the industry, can we?
Very well said, Rebecca, and thank you. Simon was a prototype of a person who's just irreplaceable. And to try to do so, that'd be a fool's errand, to be honest. He set such a high standard with the ZwiftCast. And with that said, we're going to do our damnedest to carry on. No doubt about it. But Simon, he was a one of a kind, and his DNA was a huge part of what people loved about the ZwiftCast. It was the way he crafted it with his own style. And Rebecca, as stoked as I am to get to be with you now, I'll honestly say I feel lucky to have been able to spend some time with him. It wasn't a lot of time, but this summer we got to work together as he rebooted the show. And that was really valuable to me. And I think he'll be proud, to be honest, to see us carrying on. He knows the show was missed, and I really felt it meant a lot to him to see it meant so much that it was brought back. So I don't dare to speak for the man himself. He did that quite well, but I would say that our respect will always be there. So, Rebecca, I know we'll be bright-eyed with full hearts, ready to move into a new era. And one thing I can say won't be forgotten will be our respect for the man and what he built. So, on the shoulder of giants, isn't that what they say?
So well put, Dave. And he will absolutely hate the fact that we're singing his praises so much, but how could we not? Well, we have a plethora of things to talk about, but you had a wonderful catch up with Eric Min, of course, the CEO and co-founder of Zwift, to talk about the ZwiftCast and so much more. Let's hear that now.
As Rebecca mentioned, we wanted to acknowledge the role that Simon played. Eric, thanks so much for joining us. You're one of the people that certainly were the first to come across Simon in the Zwiftiverse. I look at him as having unlocked hero status for me. He's been so helpful. But can you talk a little bit about the first time you met him? As far as I understand, he was literally one of the first beta riders. Is that true?
That's right. He was one of the first beta riders, and he was a journalist back then. And so I think he wrote the first piece for Cycling Weekly. So it just goes to show how long I've known Simon. It's been 10 years already. And you know, having him create this wonderful show called the ZwiftCast, a podcast. You know, I've been on a couple of editions of the podcast, and to be able to come back again after, 10 years, it's pretty amazing. And the legacy that he's leaving behind. And I love the fact that we're rebooting this after, what seems like a couple of year hiatus.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you helping us link back to that for sure. There's so much to talk about lately, Eric. I was on the Thanksgiving ride, and it was such a good time. I was overwhelmed by the number of people. Ultimately, I didn't see the tally, but I think it touched on 4,000 people, maybe.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was like, okay, I guess I don't need a celebrity to help me drive up the participation.
It's funny. We're going to talk about that because at Zwift Community Live, Eric, you're going to play such an interesting role as who you are in this community. But we can touch on that as a minute because, Eric, with so much going on right now, even Eric Schlang, who's on this episode with you, another great link back to all things Zwift, he'd never ridden on Jarvis. I was surprised. I assumed he was an early beta, but he's 10 years in. But we saw a lot of folks who had never seen it. You're going to be impressed because he said some things about those 5 kilometers that actually blew me away. I'm going to save that for when you get to listen to the ZwiftCast. But when you looked at that day, can you talk about what was going through your mind reflecting back? At some point, I hope you had a chance to. I know there's a lot going on, but what did you think about when you saw what you'd built?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just talk about the new Jarvis map, the reboot. It's when I finally got to ride on it, and I didn't ride it until it was almost ready to ship. It obviously it was the same course, but it also felt different. It felt more modernized, and but I think it was a tribute to all those who were with us early in the journey of Zwift. And we wanted to, of course, find the right opportunity to bring it back. For years, I'd said, we're not bringing back Jarvis. We're only going to look forward. But, of course, the 10-year anniversary meant that, this is a perfect time to bring it back. And there are thousands of people who hadn't seen it in almost a decade. So it's great to bring it back and pay some homage and credit to those who've been with us for so long and celebrate the 10 years of Zwift. But it's a wonderful, wonderful course. It's only 5 kilometers or 3 miles, but that's what Zwift was based on. We started there, and we only left Jarvis because we just had too many people, and we had to move to another island called Watopia. But it's so nice to be able to go back, and now it's a permanent fixture of an extension of Watopia. So yeah, it brings back great memories, and I love seeing some people that I haven't seen in many years talk about Jarvis again. So it's been a walk down memory lane.
Let's take a walk then. I so appreciate your time here, but this is fun for me and all of our listeners, Eric. First time you ever rode with John Mayfield. As Rebecca introduced you, we talked about, co-founder and who John Mayfield is. And I'm really looking forward to having him on an episode. But I'd like to know where you both were. I kind of assume he was in Austin and you were in New York, and what kind of bikes and the first time you rode on Jarvis. Can you just give us a snapshot at that really interesting moment in history? It's like when Edison was screwing in the light bulb.
Yeah. I had lunch with John today. It was Jarvis was created, after his first sort of iteration of the game. It was a map that he had created. I don't even know what it was, to be honest with you. I have no recollection of like how big the circuit was, but we did create Jarvis scratch together. And when we had the first ride, I remember telling him, this is it's okay. I'm riding by myself around this 3-mile circuit. I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. And he'll back me up on this. I told him that it's missing gamification. Like, as a cyclist, what I need is something to chase. At the time, we didn't even have ghosts. It was just me riding on Jarvis as a tester. I said, let's go and create 3 jerseys, right? Let's go after a KOM jersey, the fastest lap and the fastest sprint, and let people compete for it every time they show up on Jarvis. And let's let the leaderboards reset every hour. So if you've held it, you can only hold it for an hour, and then the next person gets it. And it was a huge hit. It was exactly what we needed, and I would say that was the first gamification play that we introduced into Zwift, and then from there we've had power ups, and which was a big I remember a debate about whether or not that should be part of classical cycling, but I think most of the community got over it, and then we went on to do other sort of gamification, carrots and levels and XP points. It's come a long way, but it started with a simple map, something to chase beyond just people, right? And then of course we had ghosts next, something to chase, to ride with. And then the real people started to show up, and then we no longer needed the ghosts anymore. And then too many people showed up, and then we had to go and build a new map. So it's been a real journey and evolution of what Zwift is today. It did not happen overnight. And I have to credit the community because they steered us in the direction of what suited them. And they were always several steps ahead of us.
It's perfect, Eric, because, when I was thinking about talking with you, obviously we were going to be talking about Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, and racing and community. Those things all really came together for me in a major way. We can talk about what Zwift is to different people, but let's just stay on that thread for a second. When was the first time you and John, and now you're probably getting some help from some other folks in the business arena, but then creative arena as well, the other folks must start stepping in. When was the first time that you realized? Because there's a funny joke to me about the first bicycle when it was manufactured. Mm-hmm. It was only 5 minutes after the second bicycle was manufactured that there was a bicycle race, right? That's how, you get the point there, that it was just so natural to race bikes. It's in human nature. And Zwifting became part of human nature. But when did you first see people who you realize, oh my gosh, they're racing?
Well, the kind of people we attracted early on were enthusiasts, right? These are people who probably belonged to clubs. They were training, or they were seeking fitness, and how they thought fitness was to ride with others, try to keep up, or try to beat them. And so we started to see quite a bit of that. And, when Zwift started, we didn't have a concept of events or races or even structured training. It was just literally some virtual tarmac. And then the community started to organize itself. They would, I think, have a spreadsheet offline of all the events and when they were, scheduled for, and who was going to lead it, who was going to show up. This is before we had, proper event support. So the community just, kind of led the way of like what was important to them. And then we were always kind of, a few steps behind trying to implement this in a scalable way. We learned a lot from the community. I'd be lying to you if I said this was going to be all about community. That wasn't really what we had in mind in the beginning. It was, if you look at John is he had built something that was about training for a single user. I wanted to build something where I could ride with other people. It was more social. Social is not the same as community. The community part is something that would just, it was a pleasant surprise how the community formed, and lots of different communities. And it started with communities creating tools and websites. And Zwift Insider is an example of that. ZwiftCast is another example of that. There were hundreds of Facebook groups that formed with these micro communities. So it was something that was a real pleasant surprise. And I think it helped to fuel the growth of what Zwift is today, through the interested community members and investing their time in building their communities, and, wanting their identity on the platform through their kits, for example. That's highly coveted back then. It continues to be a highly coveted asset on the platform. So yeah, we've learned a lot from the community.
It's incredible, really, to realize how community, to me, is what it is all about, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to hold off about talking about Zwift Community Live coming up in April, because I really do want to talk about Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. Really, third year, off to an incredible start. Let me just take you back, Eric. We had a fantastic conversation, to tell you the truth. Very memorable for me, sitting there in Rotterdam before the event rolled out. And I was just hoping things went well. It was such an ambitious start, and there was so much enthusiasm. And it was so nice to see things work out well with such a, memorable finish, to say the very least. But let me just take you as a 50, I was mentioning to some folks that you and I grew up in a somewhat similar generation of American racing where, it was thriving, and we we're just coming into that LA Olympics in 84 and all of that stuff. And so let me go to a 15-year-old you racing juniors probably. And I could have told you, hey, kid, guess what? When you're X years old, you're going to create an event that's going to change the course of history for women's sports. That now is a fact. What's happened with WNBA, and anytime you see these high level conversations about women's sport and its place in the world, what Zwift is doing, that comes up front and center, to be honest. 15-year-old Eric Min, were you ambitious enough to think that, that's in me as a kid? Because I would have said, you're out of your mind, sir.
I couldn't tell you what I was going to do when I was 16,
Yeah.
But it is amazing what we have done with ASO to bring back the Women's Tour de France. I think the owners of the Tour de France, which is the ASO, they wanted to bring back the Women's Tour de France. And I think they needed a partner as a catalyst to do that. And I think our relationship, our personal relationship with, in this case, Jan Lemonnier, the co-managing director of ASO, on the back of doing the virtual Tour de France during COVID, I think we had, a lot of respect for each other and trust, because it's a big brand risk, probably more for ASO than it is for Zwift, to try to pull something off, especially during COVID and the virtual Tour de France. That went well. And I think it was on the basis of that, we talked about larger projects. And, we were thinking all along that, if you're going to do the virtual Tour de France with both men and women with equal distance and equal prize money, equal broadcast coverage, that they're setting themselves up to bring back the Women's Tour de France. There's no turning back after that. And so we knew that opportunity was there, and we had those conversations right after the virtual Tour de France, and then kind of turned into what the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is today. So it all happened over time, and my relationship with ASO dates back 7 or 8 years. It takes that kind of trust, but this we love working with ASO, and we love what women's sport is all about, and we have been fighting for sporting equality on the platform ever since Zwift started. And look at Zwift Academy. We started Zwift Academy with the women's program first, and then we introduced the men's program the following year. So women's, sporting equality, professional sports, all of that has been something that we wanted to use our brand to help promote, but it is separate from the business, right? Of course, we'd like to bring the two together as much as possible, but I see, our support of the Women's Tour de France and our slogan, Watch the Femmes, more as a movement to elevate women's sports and women's participation in sports, and fighting for equal broadcast coverage and better pay and better, professional lifestyle that are afforded to men before women. So and other sports have done that, whether it's tennis and golf. I mean, you're seeing this in basketball as well, and we want to see cycling progress as well.
Well, I'm going to leave that there just because, Eric, I could talk to you for an entire hour about that. But your position in the Zwift community, let's just jump right into Zwift Community Live. And I mean, that's going to be a mega event. I've already had so many people, just friends of mine through Zwift community, that have talked about coming and what to expect and the energy that you're looking for, almost like before a big concert or something like that.
Yeah.
But with so much excitement about that, what would you say people should expect to look forward to? I mean, I know that the event is going to be huge, but or even better, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, we have a large global community, and many of our community members have known each other for years. So what we want to do is to create an opportunity, a very easy opportunity for them to come together. This is just as much about them coming together as us wanting to bring them together. So, it's the first year. It's a pilot of sort. We want to do a great job of creating this experience. But the hope is that, we can scale this and we can see a very large community together. The aspiration, my marketing team will probably kill me, but, the aspiration for me is to bring, to have the largest cycling meetup in the world, right? I think we are well positioned to pull that off. So if this works, we'll scale it again and then it'll keep growing. And the idea is just once a year, let's all come together. We see each other virtually year round, and then let's go and ride some bikes. And we haven't really shared out too much about what the agenda is, but I can guarantee you there's going to be lots of cycling.
I'm literally so excited. Getting my own Zwift ride. And I have to give you a huge compliment. When we were in France and in Netherlands, I had a chance to, help watch people ride for the first time. And they were being introduced really to the global market. And it was really, really fun to watch that. And there's a big difference, though, between getting a couple of them ready to go to show people at the Tour de France versus shipping them globally to thousands and thousands of people, and to, the marketing, scaling up, all of that. When it arrived at my house, one, felt pretty excited to be able to actually get it going here. And the fact I could set it up really easily. And I'm not going to say I struggle. I'm not going to, say I'm laughable with that. But in general, it's not where I thrive. And I got it lickety-split set up.
Good.
And been really, really enjoying it. It felt almost like an Apple product to me as far as the packaging and just I guess, modern day. That's how things work now. It's much, much cooler. That's for sure. But yeah, congratulations on that for sure.
Yeah, I want to just credit my team who put just an incredible amount of work and thought into this. The reason why it looks so easy, and it is easy to set up and use, is because they put a lot of time into architecting that. The easier it is, it means that it was a hard problem to solve.
Exactly.
And so they've done a fantastic job. And look, we have tens of thousands of these bikes out in the wild already. And I think the first year is without a doubt a success, and it's been well received by the community. And I think it's just a fantastic way to onboard someone who wants to get into indoor cycling. It's so easy. And I think that integration, the intersection between hardware and software, gives it, that additional magic that I think we were lacking before. So we're super excited. We're really bullish. And we're going to be making a lot more of these bikes.
I can only imagine. So I want to throw my hat in the ring then. I love to travel and see the world. And I don't know where I saw it, but somebody was saying that, every hotel in America or around the world should have a Zwift ride in it. Then all you need to do is just travel with your iPad. It would be so easy and awesome. And I want to be in charge of that program. I want to travel around pitching it to hotels.
You never know.
I know that
it may happen.
People would love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if customers knew that they could ride their bike at a particular hotel, it'll probably drive interest and demand at that hotel. So there's definitely interest. And I think now that we have the hardware, those are all things that are possible going forward.
If it said like Zwift friendly hotel, I'd be like, all right, I'll take that one over the other for sure. It would be a deciding factor for sure. Eric, I've already taken up so much of your time.
No, it's okay. I do want to say one thing,
please,
which is really to thank Simon for creating the ZwiftCast. The amount do you know how many episodes he's created? It's some incredible number. It's
just over 100, I believe.
Okay, over 100. But that is, if it's over 100, and I think you're probably right, that is an incredible number of, podcast over multiple years. And I just want to thank Simon for creating such wonderful product and content for the community. I know I used to look forward to every episode. So I'm excited that it's back. I'm excited that you're driving it, and we've got a whole new cast. I think it's going to be extremely well received by the community.
Well, Eric, thanks a lot. I've seen it in person. When you hear those Zwift has changed my life stories, I don't know how you wrap your mind around that, to tell you the truth. But, my life is one of them, my friend. And I really can't thank you enough for that. So, Eric, thank you. We'll see you again. Hopefully, we'll bring on so many of the folks that have had a huge, huge impact in the positive world of Zwift. Thank you, Eric, man.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Right on.
Dave, that was such a lovely chat. And it got me thinking back to the first time that I actually met Eric. And obviously it was quite a long time ago. He was talking about this brand new spangly thing that was to be called Zwift. And it was this gaming that everyone was so excited about. How far it's come is quite staggering, isn't it, from that time?
I think that they, as we sit here on the 10th anniversary, there's a lot of pride at Zwift and a lot of anticipation for great things to come. I honestly can't even imagine what it would be like to be Eric Min himself and have created something that's changed the world in a lot of ways. And I think really, to me, the biggest thing is when we're at events like we were at the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift this year, to see people come up and talk to him and talk about how Zwift has changed their life. Whether it's a major weight loss thing or coming back from a surgery or injury, whatever it might be, I don't know how that wouldn't make you feel just great.
It's incredible, isn't it? And I'm having to really hold back because this is a topic I could talk about all day, is just that in every point of life, there is a place for Zwift and it truly transforms people. And I want to actually ask you something about one of your favorite Zwift things in a minute, but I'm really well aware that most listeners will very well know you, Dave. But if we've got any new people coming in today, perhaps listening for the first time, I'd love to hear a bit about you.
Oh.
Can you just briefly take us back to the beginning? Where did your absolute passion for this whole world of cycling begin?
Well, it's funny. Thanks for asking, Rebecca. It's somewhat similar to Eric's story, as we're about the same age, and we grew up in a really cool era for American bike racing, the late 70s, early 80s. When I'm kind of coming into my teenage years, America had a real cycling revolution. There was the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, and that brought a lot of interest to the sport. And Eric Heiden doing well at the Olympics was huge. And as a kid, I grew up in the epicenter of American racing, Boulder, Colorado. The Coors Classic race office was just down the street from our house, and it became part of my DNA. At 12 years old, I was hanging around that race office. I met Eddie Merckx when I was 14. I worked with the Soviet Olympic team that had just cleaned up in Moscow in 80. Well, they came to Colorado. I'm this 15-year-old kid, Rebecca, and the one thing I was smart enough was to look into the future, and I said, I can get Russian classes at the high school. Even though I'm in 8th grade, they'll let me go take that class. If I learn 50 Russian words, I'll be the only guy that can communicate with the Soviets in Boulder. I mean, that was what I thought. And ultimately, I saw them at the airport when they arrived, and I said, I'm here to help. And they said, come on along. And I basically got to be this kid that hung out with the best cyclists on the planet. And I would run errands for them. I would do the gopher type things, fell in love with the sport, became a mechanic, worked for Shimano doing neutral tech support, was a journeyman bike industry guy until I finally got a chance to announce a bike race in 2002. And my life changed forever. I found my passion. I found my reason for being. And that brings me up to now with being with you on the ZwiftCast, which is another highlight for me, Rebecca. So I would ask you the same thing, though, my friend. Share your story.
I'm laughing there because you segued from names like Eddie Merckx to working with me. So firstly, thank you for that. Much like you, I was just so passionate about the whole world of bikes and pro bike racing from actually 7 when I first went to a velodrome with my dad, who was a racer, and my older brother. So I think because my brother was sort of 3, nearly 4 years older when he got really hard into racing, I was just like, there's no reason that I can't come along, even though I'm 7 years old. So it's been a really long journey in the sport for me as well. And yeah, much like you, kind of married that passion with a working career. Very, very privileged to say that we've both been able to do that, aren't we? And I think I was thinking earlier about what really stood out for me as my most pivotal moment. And it genuinely was my first time covering the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, the season before this one, and then going straight into the Super Worlds, which of course was over here in Glasgow. And it was one of those summers of sport where you just pinch yourself. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that for me was seeing where the women's side of the sport has come to. And of course, you know, a huge testament to the work behind the scenes at Zwift.
I think really, to be fair, you and I met basically as 12-year-old cycling fans at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift this year, when we were both sprinting to the roadside to try to catch the peloton rolling by. You're dragging a suitcase. I'm zipping in and out of buses. I don't know that I've connected with the 12-year-old Dave or Rebecca any better than that moment. And then we got to see the Olympic gold medalist have a flat tire right in front of us. Come on. We're lucky people, Rebecca. There's no doubt.
What a day that was. We genuinely just met over those couple of days, hadn't we, over in Rotterdam? And yeah, oh my goodness, I can't even go into the whole story because it's going to make me sound just like absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But we had to navigate the road closures, didn't we, to actually get to the part of the course that we wanted to get to, and actually I ended up
trapped.
Kind of ending up on a traffic island. And then the mechanical happens right in front of me. And I'm thinking, oh no, I can't be on the TV footage here. And that was genuinely the moment that we got to know each other, and what a brilliant moment it was. Now, we're going to move on and invite our next guest straight into the mix with me and Dave here. So welcome back, our next Eric of the day, Eric Schlang. Eric, welcome. Firstly, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you, Rebecca?
I'm very well. Absolutely delighted and buzzing to be here today, as you can tell. Now, of course, the ZwiftCast has taken a brief hiatus, and I understand there has been a lot going on in that time that we might have missed. So are you happy to give us like a top 5 rundown of what we have missed?
I can do that. Yeah, there's been a lot. Let me think here. Okay, so top 5 since the last episode. My first one, it has to be the Jarvis launch. Jarvis Island in Watopia. It's only around 5 kilometers of new roads, which isn't a whole lot, but possibly the most important tarmac that has ever existed in the cycling world. This is a recreation of the original Jarvis Island. They called it Zwift Island, I think, officially back then. Just this short loop that was ridden hundreds of thousands of times before we all moved to Watopia. And it was never ridden again. Once we moved to Watopia, you couldn't access Jarvis. So a lot of folks, including myself, had never ridden Jarvis until it launched. So that's the first one, Jarvis. The second one launched along with Jarvis on November 12th, and that is the updated mini-map HUD profile, I guess I'd call it. They updated the route profile in the mini map, and this seems kind of nerdy, but if you use Zwift much at all, you'll realize that route profile is really confusing and not super useful the way it used to work. And the new one, which is only live in Watopia right now, works amazingly well. You're able to just see at a glance how the whole route that you're on lays out, where the climbs are, where the segments are, where you are. It's super useful, and I can't wait for it to roll out on the more confusing maps like New York so that I can actually see where I'm at.
I just thought it was me that got that confused, Eric.
No, it's everyone, Rebecca. I promise you, especially New York. Third one, Zwift Camp Baseline. This one, so this is a new sort of training program / fitness assessment that Zwift has rolled out. And what's important about this isn't necessarily even this current program. What I think is important about it is what it means for the future of Zwift, because I think what they're doing is they're just dipping their toe in the water and trying a different sort of program that assesses your fitness across multiple metrics and then recommends what you should do next to shore up your weaknesses and ways to race to exploit your strengths. It's basically kind of a coaching program from Zwift, although a very basic one at this point. But I think it bodes really well for Zwift's future, and I think they're going to do a lot more with it. And last I looked, there was something like 150,000 people who were signed up for it. So people are definitely interested in this. Number 4, I would say Zwift Racing Score changes. Zwift Racing Score rolled out this summer, and it officially rolled out, I think, in October, kind of came out of beta, but they continue to tweak it based on rider feedback and just trying to make races as fun and engaging for everyone as possible. And in the last few months, what they've done is they've changed the requirement. So you only have to do one 10-minute ride in order to get a score and be able to race. So that barrier to entry is even lower. They've added some what they call anti-tanking measures, which basically means you can't just coast in a race in order to tank your score and get in a lower category. They're forcing you to work harder. And then just a couple days ago, they rolled out a new algorithm for your seed score, your power-based seed score, which is kind of where your score starts from. They rolled out version 2 of it, which kind of changed everything. It reshuffled the deck. And that's big news. So if you raced before, I guess what I would say is if you raced before with Zwift Racing Score and maybe your experience wasn't ideal, give it a try again, because everybody's scores changed and all the categories are different now as of yesterday, actually, and based on when this recording is happening. And the 5th one I would say that I think is the biggest news is more and more integrations with Zwift's training API. So this is a new API from Zwift that they rolled out. I think August was when they got the first integration. That was with TriDot. What this does is it lets third-party workout creators send workouts to Zwift, and then Zwift sends the results of those workouts back to those creators. So it's an integration with structured workouts. They rolled out with TriDot first, but since then, they've rolled out with Exert, with Join.cc, with FastCat. Just heard today that they're rolling out with intervals.icu. Talked to the guy, David, about that. Trainer Road says that they're working on one. Best Bike Split just announced it. So there's lots and lots of folks coming on board. And what this effectively does is grow the library of Zwift workouts to kind of an infinite size, right? We might have had 500 workouts on Zwift before this. Now we've got an infinite number of workouts just based on which platform you're using to create them. So lots of potential there as well. And that's my top 5.
Oh my goodness. There is a lot. There is a lot going on as ever, isn't there? Thank you so much for that. And the first thing I have to pick up on is that, Dave, I can see you on camera right now, and you did a little dance at Jarvis. You're excited.
Well, what Eric was talking about this being the most important 5K in cycling made me feel great. I got to ride on it during Eric's Thanksgiving ride, and it was one of those goosebump moments when you roll into Jarvis. And, Eric, I was actually surprised that you weren't a beta rider back in the day, joining in the fun. But 10 years ago, almost, you're coming into the fold in 2015. We've never done anything like Zwift Community Live that's coming up in April in Majorca. I just saw you, Eric, at the Paulus Fondo in California. And that was a great example for me of how in real life events, you see the Zwifters all come together. There is no doubt about that. Nathan Schaefer, the Olympian from 92, saw him rolling up, talking about Zwift and Zwift Insider. So for you, this April is going to be a momentous experience, I would think. Talk to me about, and I believe there's even still tickets available if people want to join us. What are you looking forward to there, Eric?
I love meeting Zwifters in real life, and I've gotten to do it, as I'm sure you have, Dave. Anytime there's a cycling event and I show up to it, I feel like I meet a Zwifter or many Zwifters. and getting to ride with them and just chat with them is a super fun experience. Nathan Schaefer, that's a great example. I got to ride with him in that Paulus Fondo. He rode in the 1992 U.S. Olympic team time trial team. We ended up, me and him, doing a 2-man TTT on a 30-mile plus descent in that ride, switching places. And it was like an otherworldly experience for me, sitting on his wheel thinking, this guy's an Olympian. And I'm time trialing with him. It's so much fun.
And what makes me feel so good, Eric, is that you were his hero that day. He's a big time Zwift Insider fan. And it just, Rebecca, that's how we connect the dots in this world. The community, and you'll hear about that, talking with Eric Min every single time, is the magic in Zwift, without any doubt.
It's absolute magic. And you've, of course, touched on it so well already. But I love that fact that you do get so familiar with people in the world of Zwift. And then when you actually get to chat in real life, it's just fascinating because, you see these regular names popping up in the community. And I absolutely love it. And something else that I wanted to pick up on the back of your top 5, Eric, is where we're all at with the whole premise of baseline, because I will hand on heart say I'm terrible with not training my weaknesses. And totally avoiding them and doing what I want to do and picking the workouts that I know I've done before. And I'm such a creature of habit. And I love the expansion of the workouts, but I am so bad for just going, right, that's the one at the top of the list that I did before and I'll do it again. So I need baseline in my life. What about you two?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to sprint and that's my strength. And I don't like hard endurance stuff. I'm not a fan of 20-minute sweet spot intervals or even VO2 workouts. But those are exactly what I need to do to grow as a racer. And I'm sure that's what the result of this program is going to tell me. Now the question is, am I going to go out and do the work?
In my case, Rebecca, it would be pot, meat, kettle, as I am worse than you. I think I just like getting on and spinning and riding around. So I'm going to have to really focus in if I want to make the Olympic team for 28. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll do our team debrief on that one later, Dave. Something else that we haven't mentioned is that we're seeing a lot of people popping up, especially loads of social media posts on Instagram with something called spin back. Can you tell us about this, Eric, for anybody that hasn't seen this sharing of stats, especially at this time of year?
Yeah, it's kind of the concept. If you've been a Strava user for very long, they started doing, I think they called it Strava's year in sport. And it was like a year end summary for all your Strava activities. It's kind of that concept, but all your Zwift activities, except this is the first spin back that Zwift ever did. So this is actually your whole career, which could be up to 10 years. If you joined in early beta, it could be 10 years of Zwifting they're talking about. So it's an email they sent out that summarizes your whole Zwift career, how many kilometers you've ridden, how many meters you've climbed, which day of the week you typically ride on, your favorite route, how many ride-ons you received across your whole career. And it also gives you it tells you what kind of rider you are from 4 different possibilities, like Speed Demon. A lot of people got Speed Demon, Social Butterfly, World Explorer, Fitness Fiend. So anyway, yeah, I think you get the idea. Just a good summary. Oh, it also has pizza slices that you burned. I forgot about that. The most important metric of all.
I'm really glad that you've just segued onto pizza slices because I actually wanted to bring this up. I just always feel like I should have burnt more slices than I have. I come off a session and I'm like, hang on a minute. Why is my pizza count not higher?
Rebecca, I want to second that. Eric, can you talk to the right people here and get that straightened out? That algorithm is broken.
Like, I want a whole Domino's as a reward.
I think what this is confirming is what we already knew inside, and that is that pizza has a lot more calories per slice than we would like to admit.
It's disappointing. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, listen, Eric, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we hope you'll come back very soon.
Hey, I would love to.
Ride on.
Just like buses, we're going to move straight on to our next guest of the episode. He's a former national champion and represented Great Britain at the 1992 Summer Olympics in Barcelona. He's also the man that told me my pregnancy bump gave me aero gains and fell into a pit of horse sand. Could have been much worse when we last went for a ride. Welcome, Mr. Matt Stevens.
That's a very nice introduction. Thank you, Rebecca. All of those things, even the last one, is a fact. Yes. But thank you for having me. Yeah, it's lovely to see you.
It's lovely to see you. It's very exciting to be here. And I have to start by saying you are wearing a robe, which hopefully people will log onto the internet and see a clip of at some point because it's a beautiful thing. And I know why you're in a robe, and that's because I was doing a little bit of a stat stalk of you on Zwift Companion, and you were still Zwifting. I'm going to say 11 minutes ago. How on brand is that, Matt?
You couldn't make it up, could you? I am at a Zwift sort of event at the moment as well, and I've been, as you may or may not know, I've been a bit injured, and I haven't been able to ride my bike much. And you know what it's like flying and being off the bike for a few days. And I got here, and I just had to have a little session, and I knew that I was on this pod. So you've graciously given me a little bit of leeway, but I didn't realize you'd been spying on me. Yeah. But yeah, I had a half an hour session in somebody's bedroom on Zwift Ride, and it was great. So I've literally come in all sweaty. I have managed to have a shower, Rebecca. So I'm not smelly. This is fresh, Matt. This is a fresh Matt. But luckily, we're in a lovely hotel and they provide bathrobes. So I'll be honest with you, it's just me and my birthday suit in a bathrobe on a sofa and with you at the moment.
It's a beautiful thing in every way. And I was actually stalking you to the level where I thought he's definitely going to shower before we have this chat.
Oh yeah.
So, and then, right on cue, your stats stopped 10 minutes ago and it's wonderful. So we are quite early on during this recording in the Off the Map tour, and you haven't started yours yet, have you? Because you've been an international man of flights and travel as always.
Yeah, I was, I will jump on that. I mean, I literally used, Zwift on my phone today. It was really amazing the way it's just great. Connected straight away, Allen keel adjustment. And within 5 minutes, I was riding in somebody's bedroom. That's how good it is and how easy it is. But I haven't started the Off the Map tour, but I will do. And given that I know there's a Zwift ride here and my current position, I'm not quite ready right now to go on the road. It's ideal. So I will find an event at the right kind of time and I will definitely jump on. But I won't be super speedy at the moment. I'm just going to bed myself in. But yeah, it's one of my favorite tours. I love the kit as well. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, it's such beautiful kit. Obviously in-game and IRL as well. And yeah, talking of not going very quickly, I think I almost hit 2 hours for the first ride. Yeah. For anyone listening that doesn't know, I mean, just to get in a big excuse from the off, I am almost 9 months pregnant. I've only got a few weeks to go, scarily. And it genuinely nearly took me 2 hours to do the first one, which I think was over double what someone like yourself would normally do.
I mean, I didn't want to say anything, but I've got a few mates at Zada, or the equivalent of these days. Not sure what it is, but you know, the folks that do all the data at events and make sure that people, there was rumors, and luckily it didn't happen, that you were one of the first people ever to be eliminated from a Zwift event. You only made the time cut by about 30 seconds, Rebecca. So well done. But they were going to eliminate you, but they didn't because they're nice people.
I just have to say thank goodness for the coffee stop function that allows a very heavily pregnant woman to go for I'm going to call it comfort break.
That's amazing, though. The fact that, seriously, though, that the cool thing, and we're obviously mates as well, I mean, and we keep in touch. And you've been sending me some pictures of your setup, or I've seen them online, or one of the two. And the bike, the Zwift Ride, does allow a ridiculous amount of leeway, especially from the stem seat. So you've got the seat super, super low and the stem as if you're reaching up to take something off a shelf. But that allows you to ride for longer while you're pregnant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm laughing because my stem height is literally max. I've taken it to the end of the alphabet. But the fact that, jokes aside, Zwift Ride allows you to do that is an absolute game changer. Because actually, and I know a lot of people are still on various setups, but anyone that has got Zwift Ride, you don't have to do the flipping the stem, just hydrating with your, is that Tour de France femme avec Zwift?
It's the Zwift Tour Fever bead on that I've still got, the Tour de France blokes version. We heart the tour.
So you don't have to flip your stem. You don't have to worry about the mechanics of changing your bars. You can, and actually, I didn't expect the bars to go up as high as they do. But the fact that not only facilitates someone like me in pregnancy, but somebody who's coming back from injury or mobility problems, it's absolutely incredible. And it's so easy to use. And I know that you and I have been very privileged to ride on them, which has been amazing. But you briefly mentioned about your injury and why you're obviously not firing on all cylinders at the moment. Now, you and I, you mentioned we are very good friends, and taking sympathy pain to the next level. We've both had a serious problem with the same pelvic bone, for very different reasons. Mine is obviously pregnancy related, but you broke your pelvis out riding, and that must have been immensely painful.
It was I was riding at an event in Ibiza, and before anybody asks, I wasn't dancing at that point. And it was quite an innocuous crash, low speed crash coming out of a roundabout. So I hit the ground really heavily in dry conditions. Didn't skid, didn't even damage my cycling shorts. That's how much I didn't skid. But yeah, ultimately I've fractured there's two ways of, the doctor said that it's the pelvic symphysis or the pelvic rani. It's the same sort of thing. It's the two smaller circular bones, or almost like little hoops, aren't they? Right at the bottom of your pelvis. And they're joined together by a bit of flexible gristle, aren't they? Which is the bit that you're having a problem with, which allows the expansion of the pelvis when you're pregnant for women to sort of expand and contract. But it can become quite painful in some cases. But yeah, we're in pain in the bloke area and the lady area, aren't we? Of that bit.
What's that? Flexible gristle? That's the technical term.
Flexible gristle. Can you imagine that? Do you know what? If I was going to form an indie band tonight, they'd be called Flexible Gristle.
In our vast spare time, we should form that. We should absolutely form that. But rehab-wise, you have shared your journey, as you usually do, so well on, the likes of Instagram. And we actually saw you get on the bike for the first time. And I felt like you genuinely didn't know, as you documented it with us, how that was going to feel getting back on.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I'm not a fan, but when I fell off, I mentioned it, and then I didn't really go on social media and talk about my injury for about 3 or 4 weeks, I don't think, although I did other stuff. But having Zwift at home, knowing it was going to be so important, and we both had a long relationship with Zwift. Mine's going back, blimey, nearly 10 years or something, to the very start, actually, maybe 8 or 9 years, actually. But, and I knew I was going to hop on Zwift at some point, and I did want to document that bit. So I kept myself to myself. Most of the time I lay on the sofa, so I couldn't sit. I just lay down watching Bake Off. So me and my wife, Holly, we consumed 2018 to 2022 seasons of Bake Off. And incidentally, Holly's now become a mad baker. We've got cakes and pies coming out of her ears at home, which is wonderful. But no, there came a point after a complete and utter rest that I needed to get on the bike again. And because of the nature of the injury, I couldn't sit on the saddle too early. So the bit that I filmed, Holly filmed it, I went down and we were about 4 or 5 weeks in, 4.5 weeks in approximately. You can see it on my Instagram. It's got the date on it. But I didn't go down in my cycling kit. I went down into the garage in, I think I had a Zwift hoodie on, but some Avengers pajama bottoms, and then tucked into some Andy Warhol socks. So I looked a right state. But anyway, I was full of trepidation, got on Zwift, sat down, and those first few pedal revolutions were literally, that's what we filmed. I hadn't rehearsed it. So what you saw was me being, and actually it didn't feel too bad. I didn't get that pain in my pelvis that I thought. A lot of general aches and bits and bobs, but definitely rideable. And then the following day I went on for half an hour and I've built up from there. I've had a couple of little minor setbacks, but I've seen the doctor. But Zwift has just been absolutely ideal because it's stable, it's safe, and everything is measurable as well. So you can keep your heart rate nice and low. When you're just getting back, you're mostly riding on feel. But after a few days of only riding at like 170, 180 watts, I was over 200 watts. And I think having cycled for a long time, what Zwift enables you to do is very quickly see how you're getting back into it and how your body can gain fitness. So this is the first time I've used Zwift from a recuperation point of view. Normally it's from a social point of view, training, just having fun, doing events. And this is the first time I've used it, and the Zwift ride was perfect for that. And the fact we've got one here in the hotel is fantastic. So I can just keep that journey going. And it's completely measurable. And also I can do it with a lot of other people as well, which makes it a lot of fun. So, and I had a lovely bit of feedback, stuck it on Instagram, and people were really, we've got such a lovely community, haven't we, that we're all a part of. A lot of, it's great. So it was nice to be back. And I think the first time I hopped on, given the time of year, there was about 11,000 people in Watopia as well. So there was a lot of people to ride with. It was great.
Oh, but we did share in that with you, and we are all so happy that you're recovering well after such a major injury. And I know you're modest, you play it down. And actually, the other thing I noticed was, referring to your numbers there, you're already a couple of weeks out of an injury like that, up to numbers I could only dream of. So well done for that as well. Now, can you tell us where you are and what you're doing, or are we top secret today?
I've had a chat with one of the people here, and I'm not allowed to give too much away. But what I can say, because people know about what's going on, I'm somewhere in Southern Europe that at the Zwift Academy, and I can't say any more than that. Because it's everybody's been a lot of, I would imagine, a lot of listeners here, or watchers, whether they watch or listen, are acutely aware of the Zwift Academy. But we are heading towards the final stages, and they're being recorded at the moment. So I've just arrived today. But unfortunately, I can't say any more than that. But watch this space and all will be revealed. But yeah, we're at the pointy end of the Zwift Academy, and I'm there, but I can't give you any more information than that, apart from to say what we can do is look back a little bit on the Zwift Academy and talk about how amazing a success story it's been. But we're there again in the finals, and it's exciting. So I can say that.
It is exciting. And actually, it's a really good excuse to get you back in the next few episodes, and you can tell us a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it is such a game changer. It makes, I know you, very emotional, actually looking at the journey of some of the riders that have come through Zwift Academy. And we know very well now, it's just absolutely brilliant to see. And I can't wait to see it unfold. Now, before I let you go, I was going to ask about your biggest Zwift fail, because
right.
I mean, you might not have any because you're so diligent, but I have written articles and spoken extensively about make sure you have your fan, your water bottle, your towel, you're well equipped. But the amount of times I start a ride and then realize that I've just got the most important thing just out of reach.
Should we talk about my Zwift fails?
Yes.
So I haven't had any massive ones, luckily. So, I mean, the thing is, I've just got those, Zwifter sent out all our like summaries, didn't they? And you could share them, and I've just shared mine. And I've got a modest amount I think it's like 22,000 kilometers. That's a lot of riding on Zwift over the years. Nowhere near as much as Eric. He's living in 100,000 odd. Incredible. That means I've been on Zwift a lot, doesn't it? Bottom line. And I've been quite lucky not to have any massive fails. But I was in the garage, and I was on a good session, but I mistimed a wee. So I got off and weed in a plant pot, and then got back on Zwift and carried on. So there you go. But otherwise,
Sorry, I just need a moment to sit with that pardon the pun.
No plants were harmed. It was basically an empty plant pot that poured down the drain after.
But this is why I've decided I'm going to ask so many people this question, because when you are in your garage, in your kitchen, in your shed on your own, these things happen when you really don't want to leave the game.
Yeah.
And you're actually on a good ride. Now, this isn't specifically Zwift related, but it is Turbo Trainer related. And I just have to quickly squeeze this one in, is that we used to, at Herne Hill Velodrome in London, when the weather was absolutely horrendous in the depths of winter, we used to do group training kind of sessions on rollers and turbos. And there was one person on a turbo trainer with a line of people on rollers next to them, and managed to have not put the rear wheel properly in the turbo, crashed during an interval, which I didn't think was possible, out of the turbo trainer, and then basically managed to just domino all the people on rollers one at a time. No one was hurt.
Oh my God.
But it was I just wish I'd been as quick to film that as I had been on the day that you fell into the horse sand.
That's simple. Well, I'm glad nobody was hurt. I've not done anything quite as catastrophic as that, luckily. My plant pot incident pales into insignificance, doesn't it, compared to that? But
yeah, I was going to say, luckily Zwift ride. I think if I managed to crash off it, that would be quite some doing. Matt, what a note to finish on. Thank you so much. And please come back very soon.
Will do. Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness, Dave. You know that Matt is a very close friend of mine, but how brilliant and entertaining is Matt every time?
He's an all-time favorite of mine, no doubt. One of the coolest moments in my career was getting to work with him in Yorkshire at the Worlds. We did an in-real-life event there at the Zwift Draft House that you see anytime you're riding around in the Yorkshire world on Zwift. Every time I ride by that draft house, I think about Matt, and I actually shared an Airbnb with Holly as well. And it was a blast. He is iconic. I was always thinking, Rebecca, I bet you'd agree, that if Monty Python was being shot today, Matt would be on that cast. One of the best sense of humor and a true passion for cycling, a true blue guy, no doubt about it.
I love that. 100% a good point there that he would be. And also, I just think how incredible our first episode together and the guests. Well, they've come thick and fast, haven't they? But what can people expect going forward? Can you whet our appetite, Dave?
Well, we set a very high standard with this show with Matt and Eric, and I think we're endeavoring to keep that momentum going. You know, there's really interesting people in this community, and I think, Rebecca, we can tap into multiple different veins of gold, to tell you the truth. I'm going to look forward to talking to some of the people that have crafted Zwift into what it is today. I know that you've got a roster of friends in the World Tour peloton that we can enjoy speaking with. Some of them are avid Zwifters. Across the board. For me, though, it's the community. I can't wait to introduce to you some of the people I've met through racing on Zwift. I know that we have so many different subjects to cover, but for me, the secret sauce here is our community.
Always. Couldn't agree more. And on that note, Dave, thank you so much for welcoming me into the fold for my very first episode.
Rebecca, I am so excited for the future and getting to work with the real professional. Believe me, I can feel the leveling up that you bring with everything that you do. So, Rebecca, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
And of course, thank you again to Simon Schofield. Now, we'll be back in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know what Zwift rides you're planning for the festive season and how elaborate you're getting with your Christmas setups as well. Just tag us and use the hashtag ZwiftCast over on social media. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.